Hi everyone, it's Aga from EurekaCrystalBeads.com and I have another fun beading video for you. Before I get started, just a quick reminder to check out the rest of the channel, and if you like what you see, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so we always know when we're posting new content. Before we get on with the beading, let me just quickly tell you about the materials. In addition to these beautiful backlit GemDuo beads, which you're going to need 12 of. And in addition to this wonderful Krakovski crystal, you're going to need seed beads. And these are size 11 and size 15 Toho frosted jade beads. And also you're going to need 4 3mm black balls. As for the tools and other materials, you're going to need beading foundation because we're going to be doing bead embroidery today. And here I have a square with sides of roughly 1.5 inches. You are also going to need thread, and here I have 2 shades of thread. The black is for the black beads, and the light grey from KO is for the GemDuo beads because they're kind of see-through, and the darker thread would just be visible and that wouldn't be nice. You're also going to need a needle, and here I have size 12 needle, and I recommend using a thinner ones like size 12 or size 13 because we are going to make a lot of thread passes, especially while bezeling the crystal, so you want your needle to pass smoothly through the beads. You're also going to need glue to stick the crystal to the beading foundation, and I'm going to be using E6000. Also, scissors as always, and I also use a lighter to melt the end of my thread. Okay, let's get on to sewing. The first thing I want to do is to make a little hole to set this crystal deep into the foundation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take a pencil, or if you have a white colored pencil or gold or something like that, because you can draw on this beading foundation. I just go from one corner to the other and the other way. And this is the center of our work. I'm just going to make it a little bit more visible because these lines will also help us later on. Okay, what I want to do now is to cut out a tiny little X right in this middle. So I just pierce the foundation and to the other side, the other direction. Alright, so this is more or less what you want. You can adjust your crystal like that. So the way you're going to stick it to the foundation is like this, so that these lines are going to be exactly in the center of these walls of this kind of square crystal. And just to make sure it sticks, I take a little bit of rubbing alcohol and I rub it gently on the back of the crystal so that the adhesion is better. And then I take my E6000 and thinly distribute it on the back of the crystal. It doesn't have to be very exact because what's going to hold the crystal down is going to be beads and not glue. And you just put it in the middle, right there. You have a minute to make sure that it's even. And then you push it down. Alright, now I wait until it dries somewhat. And I continue my work. This is what it looks from the back. It's going to be a little bit convex. Okay, this is about dry. Now we're going to bezel this crystal with beads. And I'm going to do it by using a variation of square stitch is very easy and looks really neat. So I put about 38-40 inches on my needle and put a little knot, or rather a melted ball at the end of it. And now I pierce my beading foundation, wherever really. And I'm going to add 2 first size 11 beads. I'm going back through both of them. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 1 and go back by 2 because I really want all of my beads to be anchored to the foundation. So I'm going to add 1 and go back through 2. Okay, I'll come back to you when I finish and I have a full circle of size 11 beads around my crystal. I'm almost done with this row. I'm just adding the final bead. I'm going back 2 beads and forward 3 beads to connect that last one that I added with the first one. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add size 15 beads on top of these beads using the square stitch. Starting with 2 beads, and I'm going to try to choose the thicker ones. I'm going back 2 beads and forward through 3 beads that are underneath. Now I'm adding 1 bead, size 15 bead, and going through both of the previous ones. And now I'm going forward through 4 beads from the row beneath. And I'm going through so many beads because the more thread they have inside them, the more even it is going to look. And now again back, adding 1 bead and back through 2 beads. And in the first row I'm going through 4 beads, which is 1 more bead than before, like 1 bead forward as compared to the size 15 row. Again adding 1 bead, going back through 2 over here, and now forward through 4. And you do this all around, and what you're going to end up with is 2 nice aligned rows of beads with the upper one holding down the crystal. So I'll come back to you when this entire row is finished and it's time to close it up and proceed to the diamond duo beads. Now, just to show you what to do if you end up with a bigger gap at the end where just 1 size 15 bead won't be sufficient because the size 11 beads below are not so crowded, you should add 2 thinner size 15 beads and proceed as if they were 1. Again, I went back through 2 size 15 beads and I'm going to go forward through 4 size 11 beads from the row beneath. And now I go through the first size 15 bead that I added and back through these 2 that I added now and 1 more as if they were 2 beads. And now I'll go again through 4 just to make sure that it's all nicely closed up. Here's the fourth one. Sometimes there's a little bit of gymnastics to get that thread there. And this is the moment where if you were using a thicker needle, it just wouldn't work. Okay, I go back through, well, usually that would be 3, but now 4. And now I just go through 3 because I don't think I could go through any more. And there. That's your nice square stitch bezel. I'm going to go back with this thread now. And I'm gonna finish it because I'm going to use it further on, but I don't want it to dangle underneath my work as I use the other thread. Now we're going to need the other thread. That is grey or light grey. And you're not going to need much, less than half a wingspan. Okay, what you're going to do is you're going to go in around 1.5 bead to the side of the line on the side of the crystal. And now you're going to add the diamond duos. You can line them up in the direction in which you will sew them onto the foundation so that you don't get them wrong. And you're going to add 3 diamond duo beads using the lower hole, just like that, and go on the other side of the line, and they should just basically align themselves. And now what I do is I holding them down so that they don't move around, I attach the upper holes one by one to the foundation. You want to go out with your needle as close as you can. This is why I'm holding them down, so that they don't move around as I try to get my needle through that foundation. And the third one. And that's it. Then you go and do the same with the other sides. Pick up 1, 2, 3 diamond duos. And I would recommend checking their holes before you add them on, because sometimes one hole is clogged and then you have to undo everything just to replace that one bead. I'm going to do this on all the remaining sides and I'll come back to you when I'm done. Okay, I'm done with the diamond duos. You can see the pattern emerging. Now it's time to switch up the thread. So I finish off this one on the back with a knot. And it's time to come back to the black thread. I'm just going to finish up the last one because I don't like throwing away useful scraps. And in bead embroidery, you can always add new thread. Okay, I'm going to start in this slot right here. And this is where I'm going to attach the first of the glass balls, just like so. And I'm going to go through it twice because, well, it's a ball. And it's not going to lay flat like the Diamond Duo, so it needs to be extra secure. And now, you go through the foundation on one side of your round bead, next to the Diamond Duo, and you pick up 3 size 15 frosted jet beads. Three of them. And you go in on the other side of the rounded bead. I just secure the middle bead on both sides by going over between the beads with my thread, like so, and on the other side. Now I go slightly above that arch that I just created, and I add 4 size 15 beads. And I make another arch to the other side, go through the foundation next to the Diamond Duo, and I just secure these beads by going over them in the middle, like so. Just make sure that the thread is going in between the beads, and these little arches are going to kind of reflect the shape of this somewhat square crystal, which is going to be really nice. So I'm gonna go on to the next slot, and the way I do it is I go through a little bit of the foundation because I don't like such long distances for my thread to be loose. And I do that again. I attach the rounded bead, do the arches. So I will do that 3 more times and come back to you when it's time to make the last row to do an edge to all of that. Okay, I'm done with this stage. Now it's time to do the final row. I'm going to embroider it, and you should be coming out of the back somewhere around here. And I would like to start here because it's just easier, like this. Okay. I'm coming out with my needle around in here between the Diamond Duo beads, and now I'm going to be using size 11 beads. And for this I take just one size 11 bead and put it in between those Diamond Duos. Now I go through it again and pick up 3 size 11 beads, like that. And coming through my beading foundation on the further side of the Diamond Duo in here, so that it looks like this. And now I just go through that last one, and I'm going to try to put my needle through the foundation on this inner side of the line of beads that I'm adding, and right next to the Diamond Duos, so that it's not as easy to cut it when I cut out my work from the excess foundation. and so that it will look nicer. Okay, I add another 3 size 11 beads and go through in between the diamond duals on the further side, so that it kind of looks like this. Now I go back through just the final of the beads, and as you can see, piercing the foundation with my needle from the side of this diamond duo bead, going through that last one. And now for this whole arch, I'm going to be doing the stitch of adding 2 and going back by 3. So I go through that bead in the corner once more and through the 2 that I added. And I add another 2, like so, and go back through the last 3. And you do it just until you reach that other end. Now there's about 1 more wider bead that I can add here. So there it is. And that's going to be my corner bead. Again, I'm going back 3 just to finish this arch. But I'm going back through the foundation again, just so I can go through this last bead from this side, so it's anchored to the foundation from both sides and can serve as this corner bead that will hold this nice corner just like here. And here again you add 3 and you go on just as I showed you before. So I'll come back to you when I finish this final row and it's time to cut off the excess foundation and continue to gluing this to the backing. Okay, I'm done with that last row. It looks gorgeous in my opinion, and now it's time to cut off the excess foundation. So I typically do this looking from the back, but now there's not much thread here to guide me. So I start in the front, making cuts on both sides. You can just do them too loose at first. Remember that you can always cut more and you don't want to cut any thread that's already there. If you want, you can secure the thread in the back with glue. In this way, even if you cut it, it's not going to be that bad. Okay, I cut all 4 and now I go to the back to cut along the arches. I do it too loose at first. As you can see, there's still some more to cut over here. Now I'm going to make them slightly rounded so that I can put a bead on top when I finish off. And now I just do it with all the other sides, cutting off the excess beading foundation. I'm done cutting off the excess foundation, and now that's where ultra suede comes in. And I don't stiffen it because it's quite small and also a little bit convex, so making it more stiff will be quite a challenge. And I just roughly measure how much ultra suede I'm going to need. And it's time to glue it together. Remember to use this glue in a well-ventilated space because the vapors are quite smelly. I distribute a very, very thin layer. You can also squeeze out a little more and distribute it with a toothpick or a piece of hard paper. Like this, maybe a little bit more here. Try to leave like 2 millimeters of space to the edge because this is going to be sewn together anyway. Now you just squeeze it together for a minute. Remember to close the bottle with your glue. Close the tube. You just squeeze it for a minute. Make sure everything sticks together. And then ideally you should leave it for 24 hours to dry. You don't have to wait that long because you're just going to stitch the edges. Okay, the glue on the backing is dry. I can cut off the excess of it, and I do it looking from the front, cutting close to the edge so that the edge of the foundation and the edge of the backing are somewhat on the same level. That's done. Let me just clean this all up and I'll come back to you to finish the edge of our work. Okay, time to finish the edge. I already have some thread on my needle. It's about half a wingspan, maybe a little more, because I like to finish my piece when I can with just one piece of thread. Okay, I'm going to start where I want the top of my pendant to be, which would be here. And I insert my needle between the foundation and the backing, from the back of the foundation right underneath the beads, about 2 size 11 beads away from the edge. That is from 2 beads from this vertex. And I'm going to be sewing looking from the back. This edge I'm going to make with size 11 Toho beads, and in this case I made it with size 15 beads. It takes a little bit more work, but I just wanted to show you the difference between if you make the edge with size 11 versus size 15 beads. Okay, and now let's brick stitch this out. You take 2 beads, insert the needle through the backing and the foundation, like so, just underneath the beads, and you go through one of these beads, the last one, so that it stands up nicely. Now, why I insist on stitching these two right next to where you want your loops to be, the loops through which you're going to put a chain or a cord or anything else you want to hang your pendant on. Because, and now I added one and going up through it, because these 2 beads are going to be where the bead loops are going to be attached. so they need to be on the two sides of this top right here. Okay, I'm going to continue adding one bead, going through the backing and the foundation underneath the beads, roughly one bead away. And I'll come back to you when I finished this whole edge, and it's time to make the bead loops. Okay, I'm almost done with the edge. This is going to be my very last bead. And I'm going to connect the last one to the first one by treating the first one as if I was just adding it. So I'm going through. Now, if you put too much glue next to the edge of your work, you might find it more difficult to pierce the fabric with your needle, so be careful about that. Okay, these are the two beads that the loops are going to come out of. So I need to get my thread to come out of this bead, and I do this just by going through this bead and through the backing. And back up through this bead. And now I pick up 12 Toho size 11 beads. Try to keep them sort of uniform in shape, because those frosted jet beads can be a little bit different when it comes to their shape. More narrow, more wide. So I'm trying to pick up the more even ones. And I just go back through this bead, making a loop. Then I'll make another loop, and then I'll just go through both the loops for the second time. But now another 12 beads. Okay, and I'm making another loop. And now I'll go back up that first of the two beads, and I'll go through all of the beads in the first loop again. Back through that second loop now, and I'm going through all of that beads in the second loop. Now I just go to the other side of my work, in between those beads that form the last row. I just go through several of these beads, make a knot on that thread between them, and hide that knot in the beads by going through several more, like that. Now I can just cut the thread, and that's it. You just put a chain or a cord through the loops, and you have your pendant. And this is the difference between if you do the edge with size 11 beads and if you do it with size 15 Toho beads. Thank you so much for joining me here today. All of the products that you've seen to make these you can find at eurekacrystalbeads.com. So thank you again, and see you in the next one. Bye!